and welcome to the first ever episode of Meet the Muckdogs. As always, I will be your host, Griffin Della Penna. Today, I'm joined by none other than our manager for the upcoming season, Mr. Joe Martinez. Joe, thanks for coming on. I'm glad to have you.
Man, Griffin, again, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so we had some technical difficulties earlier, but we're back at it, and it's going to be smooth sailing from here. So we'll get right into it. Get some background, not just from your coaching side of things, but also your playing career. So you're a guy that's from Manhattan. You played local collegiately at the borough of Manhattan Community College. You were an all-conference selection and MVP there. You had very impressive hitting numbers, hitting .435 and .465 in 2 seasons. Then you also played professionally. You played in the Puerto Rican Winter Leagues, and you also played 2 years in the Detroit Tigers organization. So after those playing days kind of came to a close, what were some of the things that wanted to get you into coaching?
Jokingly, my body first and foremost. But no, you take a beating doing that every day. But I think what got me into coaching was me wanting to stay involved with the game somehow, some way. I took a few years off, played a little bit some adult league baseball where I was having a blast and met a lot of good people, travel, all over the states and playing in men leagues and travel tournaments. And it was just good fun. I was one of those guys that was has been and playing against still amateurs. It was pretty fun. But then, I decided to make a move and wanted to be involved in the game of baseball. And, through talking to some friends and some teammates, and it was like, you should maybe think about, coaching or doing lessons or whatever. So, I made this remittal flyer one day. I moved to Tampa. I said, if I'm going to move somewhere, I want to be able to move somewhere where I can do it every day. So Florida was kind of the choice. And here I am in Tampa, Florida, and been here almost 17, 18 years now. And I never looked back. And it all started with this remedial flyer of saying, hey, I did this, I did that, do some lessons. And, 2 calls led into 4 into 7, 8, 10, 15, and then you're doing camps and then travel ball teams. And I started a baseball organization. And then after that, it just kind of just fell in place. And, I started learning more and more about the coaching side opposed to the playing side. I was in player mode for a long time. So, all that transpired into me wanting to be in the game, and really coaching was that avenue to keep me involved and have some sort of impact on the youth.
Absolutely. And you really led into my next question very well. So, the coaching aspect of you opened a lot of different avenues. You've been a head instructor and assistant at Frozen Ropes Baseball Academy. They have 9 locations now across the U.S. You owned and operated Scorpion Baseball Academy. You assistant coached in the Tidewater Collegiate Summer League, and your biggest role was probably with the Bullets Baseball organization, where you guys won the 2015 IBC World Series with high schoolers. So what was that motivation and drive for you that ultimately wanted you wanted to give back? You wanted to help these kids grow and develop into baseball players and try to kind of put them along the path that you also had.
Yeah, I think, you hit it on the right ahead. When you talk about the instructional and the development side of it, that's kind of what most coaches do it for. I don't speak for every guy, but I mean, that instruction side, when I started doing that, I started learning a lot about the coaching side of it, opposed to the teaching side of it. And it was a little mixture of both. So the coaching and the teaching side of it, you got to learn a lot of stuff from a lot of different people, especially the way the game has evolved into such a technical, analytical game these days. And you can see it almost starting back then, when you started breaking down the swings, swing paths and, the numbers and, all these tools that make players better these days. That kind of just made me really focus on becoming a better coach. That information and you started, just like players, you started taking what feels good, what doesn't, what works, what players relate to, and you almost kind of what we call Mickey Mouse it, dumb it down to it doesn't get too technical with players, where they understand it. And I think me and myself and my staff are really good at that. Everywhere we coach, we try to kind of just make it make sense. and or the kiss thing, you know, keep it simple, stupid, you know, that thing. So I think that works a lot too. But the coaching, man, that all that stuff, being around that, it just made me really desire to be a really good coach. And that was kind of my goal. And being a good coach, all it does for me is translates to my players. If I can be the best I can be, then I get the best out of my players, or I can give them the best information available. You know, so that transition to me it was a long road because you had to learn a lot. Again, I always say I was in player mode for a long time. And hey, you got to play like I did and did that. But everybody's not like you, or everybody's, you know, somebody different. Some people are better, some people are not as good, some people are skilled, some people are not as skilled. So you kind of have to find that balance. And once I started getting away from player mode and basically becoming a student of coaching, that kind of was the transition for me where it evolved into what it is now.
Yeah, for sure. And you transition. You talked about a little bit earlier how you've been stationed in Tampa, Florida. You've been coaching there. You've had some trips out towards the Midwest, up the coast. You started coaching in the Perfect Game League with the Utica Blue Sox back in 2018. You had a lot of
Yeah.
success there, an over 500 record. You guys went 25-21. You guys had 5 All-Stars and the Blue Sox most walk-off wins in a season. Why did you make that jump to come up to New York and basically manage your first experience in the league? And what was that experience like for you?
I think that experience itself. Okay, I go back to what I wanted to do. Being that I played affiliated ball, I wanted to get into that just because I think it's one of the most prestigious things to do in baseball. At least what I thought it was. You know what I mean? That was my idea of it. And then you kind of realize, yeah, that's great, and I could do that. But even though I would always wanted to do that, and it was something I chased for so long. I've interviewed with a lot of affiliated teams, made a ton of final interviews, and it was just never enough, right? So, one of my college colleagues just told me, "Hey, man, you ever thought about coaching college baseball?" And I said, "Never really gave it a thought," And he says, "You should start in the summer league." And I said, "Cool." And I started looking at some jobs and started applying. And maybe a year before, I'm gonna say 16, 17, before Utica, I was applying for some jobs. And I felt like I just wasn't there resume wise. I was there baseball player wise, you know what I mean? It's just, and then, the Bullets things was really good because I had a big role there. And that kind of helped the resume. But then I started feeling like college was something that was enticing to me because they still play the game, and not that anybody doesn't for that matter, but they still play the game with a purpose. Like, I want to make it somewhere, right? They want to, if you ask 40 out of 40 guys on your roster what they want to do at that level, they all want to be pro athletes. And so one of my questions, now I'm going to go back to this. I don't mean to keep jumping around, but one of my biggest things was, if I can impact college players, and one of the questions in the interview was, why, when I interviewed with Utica, the guy said to me, why would you be the guy? What makes you why should I pick you as the head coach? Mm-hmm. And I thought about that for a second. And I said, if you want to study law, you want to be a lawyer, study law. You want to study medicine, you're a doctor, that kind of deal. And I said, well, to me, I didn't have this big professional career, but I got there, and I knew what it kind of took. And being a student of the game after all those years, I kind of felt I knew a little bit more knowledge about what I knew when I was there. Right? We always say, what if I knew what I knew now back then, right? So as a student in the game, you're like, man, I could really impact some of these guys to kind of pursue their dream, and maybe I can make a difference in a player or two. And that to me was a big turning point. And I told them, why me? I said, well, when when you want to study, when you be a doctor, you study medicine. When you want to be a lawyer, you study law. I said, if you ask 40 guys on this roster what they want to do, is be a professional baseball player. So now why not learn it from a guy that's been there, right? Or, at least got there. And he says, wow, nobody's ever put it to me that way. And so I said, yeah, I mean, if I can do one or two things, and of course that process is not just me playing it. It's me having the relationships with scouts, guys that played a lot longer, guys that I picked their brains, a lot of big leaguers that I know, that culture of just knowing people that have been there, and picking their brains. It kind of gives you an idea of what these guys are looking for, and it kind of helps your coaching in a sense, because now you can say, well, this is what I need you to look at because this is what they look at. This is what I need you to work on because this is what they're looking at. Mm-hmm. So I think that made me a better coach in turn, and that was a big thing for me to get into the college game, and making that jump with the Utica Blue Sox was a great experience. And I think from that point on, even 2-3 years ago, it's still growing every day. It's growing, and it's I feel like I'm a lot better coach than I was then. So it's a part of it.
For sure. And you added to that very impressive resume that you already have. You took a different opportunity the year later in 2019, managing the Madisonville Miners in the Ohio Valley Summer League. The pandemic kind of canceled everything last year. So how did the opportunity arise for you to return to the Perfect Game League, but this time as, the first manager of one of the newest additions to the league with the Batavia Muckdogs?
Yeah, that's an interesting story because going back to Madisonville, we'll touch on that. I got invited to go. I had a contract extension when I left Utica. So I was going to go back and stay in the Perfect Game League, and that's really where I wanted to stay. Unfortunately, some things took place, and it didn't pan out. Even though I had a contract extension, some things broke down, and I decided to move forward. I have my loyalties to certain people, and so that kind of went a different route. And then, Ohio Valley, they came calling, and it was. I think this is why, I think Perfect Game was a big stepping stone for me, and it's near and dear to my heart because what my team did there, and my staff and everything we accomplished there, it kind of sits on me a little bit because I'm the head guy. And so that kind of helps you. And then they call me and said, we want a guy here. We want you here. And it was kind of it kind of feel good when somebody says, we want you here. And, coaching there is a great league. It's not as, I think, higher level as PG. CBO, but again, you got a bunch of college players that you're still trying to do the same thing, further their careers and give them the knowledge you can. And I just doing the two just made me realize where I wanted to be and how much I'm like that league and how they run it there. The Joe Malazzo and Bob Julian, they do a great job in expanding that league and building that league, and it's one of the places where you want to play and coach for sure. So when that opportunity came up, I had some other opportunities. 2020 was kind of 3 contracts on the table, and they all got canceled. So it was kind of it was refreshing in a sense because it was one of those summers I got to stay home with my kids and my family and not miss that. And so it was kind of refreshing in a sense, and you kind of get a breather and refresh yourself. And I was at a practice one night and I get a phone call that says, "Hey, Batavia is opening up and they're looking for a guy." And I mentioned your name, and so long story short, I was referred to Mr. Nichols about that job, and we talked. And once we talked, I think we hit it off. And I guess, he felt like I was the right guy. And I mean, I know I was the right guy. I'm always super confident about that. And, ever since then, we kind of hit it off. And that's how that opportunity came. So I kind of jumped at that because Perfect Game is a league I want to be a part of. Again, it's to me, when you have, again, it's like a player, when you're having fun and you enjoy it and you love the culture and the everyday grind, and and it feels like a short season A. These kids feel like professionals. That's the kind of environment that Perfect Game provides. You got the fans, the great venues, the events, the firework nights, the great bus rides, and the camaraderie that these kids build over the summer, meeting kids from all over the summer. It's a fun part. It's fun to be a part of that. And so me, it's for me to go back. It's a place I want to stay. And I've told that to Robbie, that I told Robbie I want a multi-year deal. So I kind of don't want to I don't want to keep looking every fall. I kind of want to stay there. And of course, Robbie and his family gave me this opportunity. I'm super humbled and blessed by it. And I'm going to try to go out there and put the best product we can out there and compete for a championship every year. And just, again, I'm super humbled and honored to be the first guy to open up that franchise in Batavia. That means a lot to me, to be chosen in that role. And again, I owe it to the Nichols family and the whole city of Batavia that's supported me since they found out. I mean, all the friend requests, the people I talked to via text message or instant messaging. I mean, the reception has been overwhelming, and that's what really makes it exciting. And I think, again, the reputation that Mr. Nichols has about doing it right, you kind of want to be a part of that. And I'm just a little piece of the team and the puzzle. So, I'm hoping that we created a great environment there and give the fans something to be happy about again in Batavia.
Absolutely. And I can just tell from our, few interactions that we've already had up to this point that, you're a guy with great character. You're going to be a great leader for the team. So we'll kind of have to start telling Mr. Nichols to get that contract negotiation going. But,
yeah, right. We got to win some ball games. I know that. Robbie's the sticker for winning. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, we want to win, but I think again that it comes into being part of the community is big. Putting a good product out there, teaching, treating your guys right, treating the community right, treating the organization right, working with the entire staff and be one cohesive team. I think if that gets around and we all gel really quick and gel together, I think it's a no-brainer for us to stay together, especially if we can just, keep building a future there. And, being the first guy there, I kind of want to be the first and the last guy for a long time. So that's what I mean. It's like, again, I'm excited about Batavia. Batavia's been super, super receptive, and that makes it exciting for a coach and the players.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned, talking to Robbie, your interactions with him up to this point. What has it been like to work with a guy like that? You've only been with him for a few months now, but, it seems like you know him pretty well so far.
Yeah, Robbie's a great man. He's a business guy. You got to respect the guy that, first of all, he's a man of his word, right? We've had some occasions where we talked and that guy's kept his word with me and I've kept my word with him. And I think that's what two men could do with each other, right? First and foremost, to start a healthy business relationship. But Robbie's a guy that this is, he's a proven, entertainer, leader. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys that he's got, two hockey teams, and this is to be a second baseball team along with Elmira. And, he leads the league in attendance every year in Elmira. So this is a guy that really cares about the business side of it. And one thing you respect about a guy like that is he wants to put people in the seats for these kids, and, be a part of the community wherever he goes. He's a respected family man, a respected business guy. And you can tell every time we have a conversation, that guy's pretty business oriented, and we have our laughs and our jokes, but I mean it's pretty strictly business. And you respect a guy like that, especially myself being a baseball guy. You get he says, hey man, I'm gonna run the business, put people in the seats, and you run baseball operations, and that's you do that. That's your decisions. That's what you do. And in this game, we all know that GMs can get involved and try to be coaches and all that stuff. And sometimes that's not a good mix. But I think he respects what I do, and I respect what he does. And I think that's why we have a pretty good vibe going with each other. And again, working for a guy like that is somebody you kind of want to be around. I mean, I definitely, want to pick his brain too, because after this coaching thing, I want to get into ownership. So
Yeah.
I got to kind of go that route next too. So, I pick his brain a little bit about it too. So yeah, I mean, he's there. It's going to be fun to work for him, and I think we make a good team so far.
Absolutely. And, when I joined the Muck Dogs team, he was super accepting and wanted to make me a part of the family as well. And, he has a lot of great ideas that will be coming this
Hmm.
upcoming summer, which is going to be great for the fan base. Which brings me into my next question. What should the fans of the Batavia Muck Dogs be expecting this summer with no prior experience of having a summer collegiate baseball team?
That's a great question, because I know Batavia is used to having professional athletes in their town, guys that have very high skill level, um, prospects that are potentially going to be big leaguers one day. Guys that are throwing 95 plus every day. You know, so I think the only difference is that we're not professional athletes. These kids are not professional athletes, but you're going to see some guys that can pick it, can throw it, hit it, track it, run it down, run like a deer.
Mhm.
These are guys that are going to be those future so-called Batavia Muckdogs when they were in affiliated ball.
Mhm.
So these are some of these guys that you're going to see at the next level. Um, that's a type of talent that PGCBL almost invites, right? Because of the great league and the organization and the venues and the high talent that they bring in from all over the country. We all recruit guys from all over the country, and we try to find the best guys available. So these are some of these guys that they will see at the next level. So they're going to see pretty clean baseball. They're still going to see some guys that throw it. We have a few guys on there, in the upper nines, mid nines. So we got a couple of guys like that, a couple of guys upper eights, guys that can throw breaking balls and be pitchers, and guys that can bang the ball, guys that can throw it, guys that can run. So for the most part, it's going to be really, really solid baseball. It's not going to be watching, a bunch of 12 and 13-year-olds throwing the ball around and making a bunch of mistakes. I mean, it happens. It's baseball, right? So it happens. But I think they're gonna be surprised in how clean baseball is and how competitive it is. The league parity is really good. So anybody could beat anybody on any given day. And that's my experience in the Perfect Game League. So it's really, really close to professional baseball in the parity sense, where, like you said, we were 26 and 21 that year, and we were one game out of first place. And so that, the parity is great because you just don't know who's going to come out on top, because it's going to be so competitive, day in and day out, that you really kind of have to wait to the long stretch of it. And it's a marathon, and it's a grind for 53 games. And I think these guys are prepared to do it. So I think the fans are going to be in for a treat when they get to see these young guys that can play. And I think for the players it's just as exciting, because these fans are all giddy and excited about it, as they should be. So they're going to ask for, some of these kids have never got their autographs asked for. So when they see that, and they see these fans just becoming their fan, hey, number 24, we love 24, that deal, it becomes super exciting. I think that environment creates, it's what the perfect game is about, right? It's about these guys and that perfect game environment. When you set that standard and these guys go back to their institutions or their universities or their colleges, they'll sit back and go, they coach, man, you got to go send guys to Batavia, man. That was a lot of fun. And I think we're setting them up for that, and we're preparing them for that. So that's good for the organization and good for the business and good for the league. So perfect game is a super thing. The fans should be super excited about the baseball they're going to see this summer.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys are taking in guys on your roster that are Division 1 talents, Division 2, JUCO guys, Division 3. It doesn't really matter,
Right.
respectively what level of baseball they're playing. But if
No.
they have that heart, if they have that passion to transition into the next level, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to be there. And one of those guys that will be here this summer, he's a Batavia local guy, Jerry Reinhart. You actually
Yes.
have a prior relationship with him when you were with the
Yes.
Sox back in 2018. He was one of your players at the time.
Yes.
So how does it feel for a manager like you to have these connections with a player prior to the season even starting?
That's that's kind of a dream come true for a skipper.
Mhm.
Um, you know, as a skipper, you kind of you're these guys' leader, right? So you kind of go to war with them. You know, you kind of create relationships with them. You know, and it's usually a super professional relationship. But at the same time, you know, a lot of these kids don't really care what you know. They just need to know you care. You know, and once you do that, um, everything else kind of falls into place. And Jerry's one of those guys. Jerry, interesting story with Jerry. In 2018, Jerry reached out to me, sent me videos, you know, wanting to be on Blue Sox, and he was a kid that was super persistent and super consistent, right? I mean, he was reaching out a lot, sending me videos. We talked on the phone a couple times. You know, I gave him some pointers on some of the things I saw on video, and he right away went to work on it, sent me the video on what he worked on. So I thought that reminded me a lot of me. So he has a special place in my heart. He was one of those kids that just, he felt like this is what he wanted, and you could feel that with him. And at the time, there was a lot of options, and at the time, honestly, he wasn't the number one option. And then what separated him was that desire, you know, that desire. And to me, that's super important. And that just, again, reflected on how I was as a player, and it touched my heart in a sense, you know what I mean? So it was very interesting with Jerry. And then that kind of process went out, and then eventually got to the point where I said, I got to take this kid because he wants it, right? And I can't ask for more than that. And then so we decided to go ahead with Jerry. And then Jerry kind of, you know, played well for us that season. He had his ups and downs like every other player there. And then we have a special moment that, you know, I tell my players all the time, just compete. You know, if you tell these kids these days to win, they get a little, feel a little too much pressure. You know, these millennials are a little different, but you know, so you know, it was let's compete, and if you leave it close, I'll figure out a way to win it. So one day I kind of went out of my norm, and it was my kid's birthday, June 20th, and my son, you know, ritual for me is to call my kids before every game in the locker room, in the clubhouse, and call them before every game and say, Daddy's about to go play and coach or whatever. And they say, good luck. And that dad said, listen, we're going to win this game for you. Right. So I went out to the clubhouse and I told the guys, I said, hey, listen, I don't ask this much of you guys, but I need you to win this game. It's a special day for my son. And they went out and said, we got you, Skip. Again, that's the relationship you build with your players. And there was a moment in the game, and this is going back to Jerry, there was a moment in the game where, you know, Jerry's been struggling for the most part at that time, at that point in the season, because he had a great season and he was a big part of why we were successful. But at that point, he was struggling a little bit. And it was a situation late in the game. We were down and he's up. And I was thinking about a pinch hitter. And this is the vibe that you have with a player, or that relationship. And I called on a guy in the dugout and said, hey, start swinging the bat. And then something happened where I think they changed the pitcher, or the umpire called timeout or something. And Jerry walked up to me and gave me this look that only a player and a coach understand. And you kind of go with your gut feeling at that point. And he looked at me and he said, we're going to win this effing game for Eli right now, for EJ, my son. And that look told me this guy's going to come through. That was a special bonding moment between the coach and the player. And you felt that. And I felt that. And I told the other guy, go sit down. And of course, you know, one of my coaches looked at me and was like, what? I said, he's got this, right? So in my gut, I went with my gut. And it wasn't even my gut. It was really Jerry telling me he was going to win it. And he had that look, that proverbial eye of the tiger. Mm-hmm. He had it. And I knew he was going to come through. Sure enough, he gets a base hit, wins the game, runs up to me, goes, Skip, that was for Elijah, that was for EJ. It's a great moment. And then at the end of the game, he kind of has the ball in his hand and he does a little video and we send it to my son. So yeah, me and Jerry have a pretty cool player-coach relationship, man. So I'm excited to have him. He's going to be a big part of what we do here. You know, him being a Batavian and him being his family is super excited about it. We're excited for him. And Jerry and maybe I think Tyler Prospero's another one that's a local guy.
Yep.
And Colin North is pretty close. Those guys are going to be a big part of it. So to have local guys there, I think is great for the organization, great for the community. And I mean, those guys are going to be a big part of what we do this summer.
Absolutely. And it's going to be definitely a shift for the fans in Batavia to, you know, see the on-field product and see a familiar face that, oh, you know, he's right from around here. So that's definitely going to be very cool for them this upcoming year. But
Yep.
I can kind of tell in your voice, you are super excited for this upcoming season.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to the most as we get, you know, really close to opening day coming in a very, you know, few weeks actually?
When that national anthem plays, I know I'm about to kick some ass. That kind of deal right there. That's kind of what I look forward to. That national anthem always reminds me of that. But I'm looking forward to going up there, getting these guys situated as quick as possible. You know, again, we got kids from all over the country, so I think the first thing we have to do is create a very, very short period of time of buy-in and team unity. And I think we do that now on the phone with these guys, right? So I constantly check in with them. So they know the voice, they know the text messages, they know that I'm looking at their stats while they're playing right now. I check in on them, you know, so it's an ongoing process about with this relationship. I don't just pop up and say, oh, how you doing? You're this guy, you're that guy. I kind of know these guys a little bit by the time they get there. And that's a process of the to me, of the coaching side of it and building relationships. I'm looking forward to day one, obviously, you know, opening day when you know, we're in Batavia and it's our first game and first pitch. That excitement level for the fans and for these kids and for us as a team and you know, Nichols as an owner, you know, it's going to be a great accomplishment. And it's going to be something that we hope we're a part of for a long time there in Batavia. So I'm looking forward to opening day, first pitch, putting on that uniform and representing Batavia and the organization and the community. So I think that's what I look forward to the most.
Absolutely. And it's definitely going to be a summer for the books, but that's all I have, Coach. Again, thank you for coming on. This is the end of the first episode of Meet the Muckdogs. Continue to look out for more content in the coming weeks as we get closer to opening day. And as always, go Muckdogs.
Go Muckdogs. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Batavia, get ready. We're coming.